Hello. This is a video about working with the vertical axis when one is practicing Qigong. So the starting position for Qigong and most martial arts as well is called standing like a tree. It's also referred to as nothing special. In the translation in Chinese is translated as nothing special. And my take on that is that there's no separation between us and everything else. And fundamentally, that's what Qigong is about, harvesting Qi from everywhere, because that's what we can and we're part of everywhere. So if we think about the vertical axis, we can descend in theory and, well, some would say in practice, deep into the earth to access the Qi of the ground, the yin energy, and also extend upwards along the vertical axis to harvest or to reap yang energy from the sky, or as it's often referred to as heaven. Sometimes in Qigong practice, when we give ourselves that intentional image of extending along the vertical axis, it results in some kind of movement. And that can be from a very simple, oh, I feel my spine extending as I imagine the top of my head extending ever more to sky, or oh, I feel more firmly grounded as I imagine my feet descending further into earth. And it can also manifest as a slight movement, and that's what I want to show today. And so if we stand in the starting position and have the intention of sinking our feet into the earth a little bit more than they are, below the surface of the earth, and also have the intention of sending the top of the head to the sky, then if we reflect, we can perceive perhaps subtle changes in the spine and in the muscles. So let's just spend some time doing that. Really getting to know the vertical axis of us. And because we're so deeply connected to yin and yang in this position, which is why it's called standing like a tree, we're similar to trees. When we actually come to move, we move the whole of our vertical axis without, in a way, compromising it. So we're still connected to yin and yang, or to earth and heaven, even though we're moving in different directions. So just have a sense of that as well. And this shouldn't be in a fixed way, so you're still fluid and flexible, but there is a sense that you're not compromising that axis by moving around. The opposite of that might be the way that we generally are in life, which is somewhat horizontal. And often people can be seen leaning forward as they're walking along. There's a slight forward motion, a horizontal motion in life. In Qigong we just slow down and we consciously move the vertical along the horizontal, but we always come back to the vertical. We also talk about breathing the heaven and breathing the earth. And after a few years of doing Qigong, people started asking me in classes. There was this slight movement of me along the vertical axis, so I appeared to be doing this. Yeah, which looks like I'm bending my knees or sending them forward. So if I illustrate with a movement, if we just take white bird spreads its wings, so on the in-breath the hands come out, and on the out-breath the hands come down. Okay, so that's the movement, very simple movement. But what I started doing was, as the hands come down, is to descend more consciously into the ground. And I find that when I do that, automatically my knees go forward. So it's the same as the subtle movement that comes from imaginings, but it's a bit more of a gross movement. My knees actually do go forward in the same direction as my feet. And that evolved quite naturally for me. Okay, likewise, if I'm pushing towards heaven, perhaps with my hand, as in pushing heaven, So the full movement would be then just the thought of heaven or sky causes me to go upwards along my vertical axis, so push the head ever more towards heaven. So no one really told me to do that. It's just happened that I'm elongating along the vertical axis. I'm guessing if I was to be measured, I might even be a bit taller. So here we go. Now, when I broke that down, because somebody asked me, do we have to do that? Do we need to bend our knees when we go down? Do we need to straighten them? When I had to pick that apart, I realised that what I'm actually doing is when I am pushing my head towards the sky, I'm pushing my feet into the earth. Okay, so I'm pushing the feet into the earth, and when I do that, the knees extend, so the legs get straighter and the top of the head moves towards the sky. But it's coming from my feet. Okay, so I'll just say that again. So as the hands come up, the feet push into the earth ever deeper. And what happens when I do that is that pressure between the earth and the soles of the feet that sends everything up. So it's not just a flexing and an unflexing of the knees by any means. It's a kind of an instinctive, if you like, or intuitive moves. Oh, how can I extend my vertical axis? So push the feet into the earth, and therefore the top of the head moves towards the sky, and then I come back down and I'm sinking down into earth again. So I'm ever more sinking into earth, and then I want to press, so it's like a springboard of the feet that causes the top of the head to extend more towards the sky. Okay, and in just about every movement of Qigong, I can see the potential for playing around this vertical axis, for extending it, and therefore creating a little more space for Qi to move through the spine, for example, to move through the neck spine into the brain. So those of you who said, do you bend your knees and do you straighten them? Not exactly, but I might do. But the impulse comes from my connection to the ground and how that manifests when I send the top of my head to the sky. And so what I would invite you to do is not take anybody's instruction about this or even follow what they're doing, but to ask yourself, if I have this vertical axis, which gives me good connection to the earth and supplies me with yang energy from the heaven, what then happens to my Qigong movement after a while when I intend that? And so in a way, therefore, you're making the practice your own. And I invite comment and feedback in the comments section of the YouTube platform. Thank you for watching.